Yeah, yo, 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 Chugly Truck Driver. How the flock are you? Well, we're about 3 days before Christmas. Christmas is kind of a bad time for me sometimes. I have issues, if you know what I mean. This is one of them. Her name is Cho Che-hee. Her nickname was Judy. Doesn't mean a hill of beans to you. You never know her. You never met her. And unless you were in the 7th Infantry Division in Korea in 1967-68, and you didn't hang out with me or weren't stationed with me or went down to the village with me, she's just another person. I got out of Vietnam about Thanksgiving of '67 and was rotated back into Korea. The Pueblo incident, some of you might remember that. And instead of being stationed back up on the DMZ with the 73rd Armor, which sits real close to the DMZ, I got stationed down in Tonduchon. That's about 15 miles south of Camp Casey, the 73rd. And, you know, on your time off, you go down to the village, drink a few beers, listen to the bands, talk to the girls, all the rest of that. Anybody that's been overseas and in the military, you know, knows what the routine is. I'm not going to get into it. But I happened to meet this young lady about a month after I was back, just about, I'm going to say Christmas of '67. And we kind of hit it off. I mean, we kind of hit it off real good. And we got together and we were what you would call over there steady. Matter of fact, I used to call her my yobo, which is the Korean word for wife. She wound up pregnant about 7-8 months after we were together. We sat down and had a long talk whether or not to keep the baby or get rid of it. And then we also had a talk about getting married and having the baby and having her come back to the United States with me as my wife. And you need to understand, back in the 60s, the military did not like GIs marrying foreign nationals, which I find funny because we Americans in Korea were the foreigners, actually. But needless to say, the military attitude was the military attitude. But we got a hold of a Korean attorney. We decided we were going to get married. We got married in a Korean Catholic church on the west side of Tonduchon one night. For the life of me, I can't remember exactly where it was. It was a Korean priest. It was a Catholic priest. We said our vows and all that. Unfortunately, over the years and through God knows what else, all the paperwork and everything else that was filed had gotten lost. And what happened was just before Christmas of '68, she came down sick real bad. She was bleeding to death internally. I went to the commanding general of the 7th Infantry Division, Commanding General William A. Enemark, who about 3 or 4 months before had awarded me the Division Soldier of the Month as being the best soldier in the division in Korea. And I presented him with the issue, and he basically proceeded to kick me out the front door and didn't want to know a thing about it. We had filed paperwork, we'd filed the marriage certificate, all the legal stuff. Trust me, it cost me a ton of money over there. And it was like beating your head against a brick wall. But all of a sudden, Judy came down sick. We didn't know why. We took her to the local Korean doctor. And back then in '67, you got to understand, Korean medicine was maybe 20 or 30 years behind American medicine. I couldn't get her on base to an American hospital. And the Korean doctor did what he could for her. It was found out later, after her death, she bled to death internally from a duodenal ulcer. She was pregnant with our child, so both she and the baby died. That took a lot out of me, I'll be honest with you. I had been on base the night that she died, at the time she died, and all of a sudden the gate guards at the front of our compound come up and are saying, "Yo, man, there's a whole bunch of business girls down there at the front gate hollering your name." And I went down there and I was told what happened. Well, at the time, I was an E5 specialist. I carried my pass to go into the village on me. I called up the battalion headquarters and told them what had happened and where I was going. I made a beeline down to the doctor's office as fast as I could, and it wasn't fast enough. Now you gotta understand, this doctor, this Korean doctor, just barely speaks English. And I get there and I'm like huffing and puffing and, really psyched, like, what is going on? Where is she? And then, just like any good papa-san, he sits down and says, "Brockner, Judy's dead." My world came to a dead stop in that instant. I mean, everything, sounds, lights, everything around me just ceased to be, and I'm not sure for how long. I got my faculties back together, and I says, "Well, where is he? Where is she?" He says, "She's upstairs. I have her laid out in a kimono on a bed." I'm sorry. It's getting to me a little bit. I went upstairs to see Judy's body. Before I went up there, Papa-san gave me a couple shots of Bang Yang. We used to call Bang Yang somewhere between a mix of jet fuel and high octane alcohol to try and steady me down. I went up there, saw her stretched out on the bed. I am told, because I don't at that point remember accurately, that I howled like a wounded animal howls. And it was heard for several blocks around as I fell over her body, hugging it, kissing it, begging God to bring her back to life. And that wasn't happening. I don't know how long I was there. Eventually I kind of passed out, if you know what I mean. Exhaustion, whatever. When I finally came back to, I guess it was 6 or 8 hours later, Judy's body was missing. And I come screaming downstairs to the docks. And I says, "Where the heck is she at?" Well, down there at that time, when a person dies, they would take the body and bury it as quick as possible. Evidently, the locals that knew her, that knew me, had taken her body. And there's a little cemetery a couple miles south on the MSR with a bury people. And that's where they took her. And being that I was a GI, some of them still had issues with Americans even after the Korean War. And that's the reason I got left out of it. Trust me, that's a whole big hole in my life to this day that I wasn't there to see her buried. But that's why Christmas for me sometimes is real hard, because yeah, I've got a bunch of kids today. They range all kinds of ages, and I've been married several times and divorced several times. But sometimes at Christmas, the old things creep out. The past history creeps out. And you don't sleep so good. The memories creep out. And I try and remember the good times, the times we'd be hanging in the bars, watching the bands playing, drinking a couple of OB beers with the other GIs, and out on the floor dancing and telling silly, stupid jokes and making fun of each other. And I guess unless you've been stationed in Korea, you've been down in what they call the business section of town, if you know what I mean, you won't get it. When I finally got my brain back together, or I should half-ass together, the next day, I hit one of the clubs, and I'll be honest with you, I knocked back about 10 or 12 shots of some good hard booze. I mean, I got toasted. I really got toasted. And then I remembered, she and I had a hooch down there that I paid for. And between the food, the rent, and everything else, and taking care of her, I was putting out almost 5,000 won a month. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but over there back then, that was a good sum. That was like 270 won to the American dollar. And I went down to the hooch. The landlady sat there, and she knew what went on. And she was a cold customer. I walked in the hooch, it was empty. The furniture was gone, the bed was gone, the stereo was gone, the TV was gone, her clothes were gone, and I flipped out on this goop bitch. She said, you owe me, you owe me. I said, I owe you shit. I pay you every month for everything we had in here. It's mine. She fucking sold it out. And of course, being a GI down in the town, you can't raise too much shit, otherwise you get what we call the mice. That's the Korean police coming down on you, and the first thing they do is they call, the MPs off the base, and no matter what you do, you lose. I was one mad, hot, angry son of a bitch. I mean, we had pictures. We had, I had a little 3-inch reel-to-reel tape recorder we used to record shit on and stuff. And it was all gone. When it was all said and done, I ended up with a little silver rice bowl that I still keep today that was hers. And this picture of Judy, which the original size is about 2.5 by 3.5 inches. And I've blown it up, so it's lost resolution. I had a copy of her Korean obituary. It was just a little 4-line thing in the Korean newspaper. Over the years, that seems to have disappeared. I've tried to contact people in Tandichon, Korea over the years. Tried to get copies of the marriage license. Nobody can find the Catholic Church or the priest. Well, probably by now the priest is dead. But very little luck. The smartest thing that the first sergeant did of our battalion, God bless him, because after that I was what they call a village rat. I would just, as soon as I got off duty, down to the village, get raging drunk. He got me a 90-day early out of the military. He says, Skip, if I don't get you out of country, He says you're going to be a walking suicide case. So instead of getting out of the military, which would have been the end of April or the beginning of May of '68, I was out of Korea just in time for Christmas. I got back to the States. I was still a mental wreck. I may still be a mental wreck today. But see, if you talk to the VA about stuff like this, it wasn't Vietnam, it wasn't war, but you know, the division commander screwed you, 7th Army screwed you, 8th Army screwed you, you know, USAPAC, whatever the hell you want to call it, screwed you. Don't matter. I mean, hell, even when my dad married Helga, and Helga worked in Germany for the American government as a German employee. Dad was an American GI, and when he married her, they pulled his top secret clearance for like over a year, and she had the same clearance. Figure that one out. That's how fucked up the military was back then. It may still be today, I don't know. But yeah. Sometimes Christmas is a little rough for me to handle because I got these memories. And I'm sure there's other guys out there that are GIs or ex-GIs that know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. Christmas can sometimes be a bummer. So anyhow, Feliz Navidad. Y'all take care. This is just my little 2 cents about why Christmas is not always as great as it really seems. Y'all have a safe one. We'll catch you on the rebound. Bye-bye.